Good evening and welcome to Primetime Lawmakers, GPB's nightly coverage of the Georgia General Assembly. It's the fourth legislative day of the 2012 season and session. I'm Scott Slade. Coming up in tonight's program, a Tea Party rally at the Capitol calls for stronger ethics reform in state government. The 27th annual Martin Luther King Jr. Day ceremony was held at the Capitol. State and local leaders spoke on Dr. King's continuing legacy. And this week has brought new developments in the Hope Scholarship and college campus consolidation. I'll be joined on set by the Chairman of the House and Senate Higher Education Committees, Senator Buddy Carter and Representative Carl Rogers, to make sense of it all. All those stories are coming up tonight on the program. But first, let's go live to the Capitol, where Primetime Lawmaker Sandra Parrish reports there was a meeting of the minds today between Tea Partiers and ethics groups. Good evening, Sandra.
Good evening, Scott. The groups joined forces here at the Capitol today to push for stricter ethics laws. Right now, lobbyists are required to report any amount they spend on lawmakers, typically including meals, tickets to sporting events, even out-of-town trips. The groups today complain ordinary citizens can't compete with that.
Well, I stand here to say we are watching.
Georgia Alliance for Ethics Reform and the Tea Party Patriots are calling for comprehensive ethics reform, including $100 caps on what lobbyists can spend on lawmakers.
Every state around us has come to the conclusion that there ought to be a limit on gifts by lobbyists to government officials. Some of those limits are zero. 72% of Georgians are for it. That is a political argument to be for it.
We're speaking on behalf of not only our organizations, but we're speaking on behalf of that small business owner who doesn't have the extra time and money to be up here at the Capitol all the time. So he has to close down his business to take a drive to Atlanta and petition his government. We're speaking on behalf of the stay-at-home mom who has to get a babysitter for her children so she can make a 75-mile trip to Atlanta to petition her legislators. Those people have the right to be equally heard, as well as every bit as much as paid lobbyists.
House Speaker David Ralston said earlier this week he does not support a cap on gifts.
I think if we have an ethics law in Georgia that requires the disclosure of a $2 Christmas card and postage that was disclosed on me, then I think Georgians can take that information and do with it what they choose to do with it, frankly. You know, a lot of the people that are talking about this ignore the fact that we've got the best or the worst example of having these kind of decisions made by politicians is Washington, D.C. I don't think anybody would pretend to say that that's a model of ethical well-being and well-doing up there. I trust people to make these decisions.
But supporters of ethics reform say current reporting laws are not enough.
Until this perception is broken, citizens of Georgia will always question whether legislation is being passed in their better interest or if legislation is being passed in the interest of filling campaign coffers.
Lawmakers plan to introduce a bill when they return from budget hearings that will go beyond just gift caps, including limits of $10,000 for money that can be transferred between campaigns or political action committees. They also want to make it easier for citizens to file ethics complaints.
We want to make it to where that person out there that wants to file an ethics complaint or talk to the ethics commission about something will know who to call. Right now, that's transparency in government, something like that. Average person doesn't have any idea what that means. We're going to go back and change the name to the State Ethics Commission so everybody know what we're talking about and know who they are.
As we mentioned during last night's broadcast, Governor Deal has gotten word from the Federal Highway Administration that the State Road and Tollway Authority can lower the rates on the I-85 toll lanes to as low as a penny a mile during non-peak hours. Deal says the lanes have reached capacity of 2,000 cars per hour during the peak times, but the same is not true during others.
I think it will provide some rather quick relief on that very congested highway. I am pleased that the DOT board has been willing to embrace that, and hopefully within the very next few months we will see that actually in operation. I think it will at least be somewhat beneficial to that very congested road.
Scott, the CERTA board is set to meet next week and could make the final decision on lowering those tolls at that time. Reporting live, I'm Sandra Parrish for Primetime Lawmakers.
Of course, Sandra, the reason the federal government's involved in all this is they were involved with paying for the system along I-85. Have you heard any talk at all down there about just ripping everything out and saying it was the hot lanes were a bad idea?
Well, actually, Scott, there has been a lot of grief over that, especially in Gwinnett County. Citizens there have been complaining about this for months. I don't think that we're going to see those lanes go away, though, anytime soon. As you said, the feds have paid for those lanes. Don't think they're going away. All
right, Sandra Parrish, thanks for that live update. Georgia's education rankings are looking up. This morning, a report at Education Week ranked Georgia number 7 in the nation for overall education quality. The ranking is based on assessments of improvement in certain key areas, including reading scores, advanced placement test scores, and other areas. Last year, Education Week ranked Georgia number 8 amongst the other states. You can get more information on that report online at www.edweek.org. State government leaders marked the anniversary of civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birth with a ceremony at the Capitol today. Primetime Lawmakers' Kiosha Howard files this report.
The voices of the Atlanta Boy Choir filled the state capitol this morning, heralding the celebration of the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This year marks the 27th annual Martin Luther King Day gathering under the Gold Dome. Several political figures, including Governor Nathan Deal, spoke about the legacy of the civil rights icon.
Upon receiving the Nobel Prize, Dr. King stated, "I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. That is why right temporarily defeated is stronger than evil triumphant." When Dr. King was shot and killed, it must have appeared to some around our nation that evil had triumphed. But right was only temporarily defeated. Dr. King's truth and love have triumphed, and because they have, we live in a better world.
27 years of unbroken celebration, people putting aside their differences to lift up the dreamer, to honor his work, and to acknowledge one other essential fact. Dr. King's work was not just about improving the rights of African American people, it was about lifting the burden of oppression from all people who were engaged in an exercise that harmed others. So we're all enhanced by the work of Dr. Martin Luther King. We are all so much better, and our union, our city, our state, and our country is indeed more perfect.
Dr. King made this a better city. He made Georgia a better state. He made the United States a better country, and he made the world a better place to live. He did that by exhibiting, by showing moral leadership and by showing courage. I'm honored to be here today to pay tribute and ask us that we not just remember his example, but that we apply his example.
Governor Deal gave a proclamation to the King family declaring January 16, 2012 Martin Luther King Jr. Day in Georgia. King's sister, Christine King Ferris, accepted.
My brother did not live to celebrate his 40th birthday, but his leadership of the American Civil Rights Movement blazed a trail of hope and inspiration that still stirs the hearts of people of goodwill on every continent. I was in the house the day my brother was born, and my life has given witness to the astounding changes that were wrought because of his creative nonviolent leadership.
A portrait of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. hangs right here in the state capitol, a daily reminder of the contributions of this civil rights icon. Reporting for Primetime Lawmakers, I'm Kiosha Howard.
Tribute at the state capitol today. Tonight at Atlanta Symphony Hall, the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra's 20th annual King Celebration Concert features cellist Yo-Yo Ma and the Morehouse and Spelman Glee Club. So many things around the King holiday leading up to days of service this weekend and, of course, the federal and state holiday on Monday. We've got to take a short break in Primetime Lawmakers, but just ahead, new developments in higher education. I'm going to be joined on set by Senator Buddy Carter and Representative Carl Rogers, the chairman of the House and Senate Higher Education Committees. If you have children getting ready to go to college, you're currently in a school or about to start, this is a conversation you don't want to miss. We'll be talking about getting the most bang for your higher education buck in Georgia, so stay with us. Welcome back to Primetime Lawmakers. Higher education's on the minds of many Georgians. Last year, changes to the Hope Scholarship meant that Hope scholars could no longer expect to receive full tuition payments. The first time Hope payments would be based on actual lottery revenue. In Tuesday's State of the State speech, Governor Nathan Deal surprised many by announcing that current Hope scholars will receive the same benefits they received last year. Also this week, the Board of Regents stirred a little controversy around the Gold Dome by voting to consolidate 8 colleges in the university system of Georgia. This move comes on the recommendation of University System Chancellor Hank Huckabee. Gainesville State College will be consolidated with North Georgia College and State University, Middle Georgia College with Macon State, Waycross College with South Georgia College, and Augusta State University with Georgia Health Sciences, formerly the Medical College of Georgia. It's important to know that at this time, no campuses will be closed. Joining me on set tonight to talk about all this are 2 gentlemen from the state capitol who certainly know a lot about higher education. Senator Buddy Carter of Pooler. Senator Carter is chairman of the Senate Higher Education Committee, and Representative Carl Rogers of Gainesville. Representative Rogers is chairman of the Higher Education Committee in the House. Thank you both for being here with us this evening. Was it good news the governor had last night for Georgia families on the Hope Scholarship? Senator, we'll start with you.
Yes, it was good news. I think the governor understands how important the Hope Scholarship is to Georgians, and certainly we're very proud of it. It's one of the most successful programs in the nation, and it didn't happen by accident. We've worked hard to maintain it and make sure that it stays a viable program.
And at this point, we're still at 90% of tuition?
We are at this point, and of course, as you remember last year, we changed that, and we actually decoupled it from the tuition itself, which was causing us a problem because its tuition rose, and as we had to meet that rise in order to meet the tuition requirements, it caused a problem when lottery revenues were down. So we decoupled it, and at this time, we're right around 87–90% of the tuition cost right now for this year.
Representative Rogers, great to have you on Primetime Lawmakers.
Thank you.
Great
Good
to
to
have
be
you
here.
Now, your thoughts about what the governor had to say on the Hope Scholarship. Were you happy? Was that good news? Can we do better?
Well, Governor Deal is from Hall County, where I'm from, naturally, and I've known the governor for a long time, and I knew the homework had been done. We know it's the best scholarship in the United States, and in fact, Senator Carter and I were just talking about it. I think we've served over 900,000 students so far, so it is a revenue issue, and that's what Senator Carter and I are going to do, is continue to work on that issue.
Do you see a time, if things get worse, and I hate to start with that here off the outset, but do you see a time where not only will the Hope Scholarship be merit-based, but it will be means-based as well? In other words, Georgia families would have to qualify financially, they would have to need the scholarship, Representative?
Well, in the beginning, that's the way it was.
Sure.
In the beginning, and then we expanded it, and now we're in a situation, crossroads, where we're going to have to revisit it again. In fact, Senator Carter and I are going to have a joint hearing on the 25th of this month at 2 o'clock in the Capitol 341 to discuss about 2016, where the funding will be down considerably, and we hope we can come up with a solution for it.
What do you think the Georgia families are going to have to shell out? Now, we've been hearing figures, another $2,000, $2,500 a semester, possibly. Is that a good number 4 or 5 years from now?
Well, it possibly could be. Right now, as we said earlier, we're at 90% of tuition cost, and depending on whose projections you believe and whose projections you go with, we could in the future, in the next couple of years, go down to 75%, and there are even projections that if revenues don't pick up and if tuition continues to increase like it has in the past, that we could be below 50% of tuition, and certainly at that we would need to see what we needed to do.
Are you satisfied that the brain drain has been stopped? One of the reasons that the Georgia's brightest students get the full ride is we want our smartest kids here. Hopefully they will stay here. They'll get jobs here. Have you seen any numbers indicating that the past year that has indeed kept our best and brightest students here?
I think we have. I think it is definitely worked, and especially if you look, and keep in mind now that we do have the Zell Miller Scholarship, and that's for those students who obtain a 3.7 or above in high school, and they get 100% still paid of their tuition. So the figures and what we have been told, they do reflect that we are stopping the brain drain and that we are keeping the best and brightest in our state, which is what we wanted to do.
Representative Rogers, one of the biggest problems is that Georgia colleges are so popular, and one of the reasons they are for our kids in state is the Hope Scholarship.
No doubt.
Do you see a time when the enrollment, have you seen some figures, some actuary studies, where enrollment may be going down so we can have more money to pass around to the kids who do wind up going to school?
We may be at that crossroad now. I have heard from constituents in my area that we're not going to go to school because we're not getting, the Hope Scholarship funding. Of course, when my wife Linda and I had our 2 children, we paid 100% of it. Yeah. And most people are used to not paying anything, but we come to that crossroad again. I mentioned crossroad, that we're going to have to pay more. And I know that's a challenge for many families in this state right now.
Governor Deal actually spent some quality time on this issue on the State of the State message earlier this week. Let's hear what he had to say about hope and other matters in higher education.
And for every student who earns hope, my budget for next year maintains the same award amount as was received this year. Also, we will again appropriate $20 million for the needs-based program, 1% loan program for needy students, because this is a burden that sometimes faces students and they have nowhere to turn. This year, more than half of these newly appropriated funds went to students who had no assistance from their families.
A lot of people don't even know about that loan program, Senator. I mean, it's there to help bridge that gap. It's almost like gap insurance for college education for families who do have a need.
It is there, and probably that's one thing we haven't done a good job of is making sure people know about it, and hopefully and I think they will, our colleges and universities will assist us in making it known to families that it is available.
Mm-hmm. Representative, is the word getting out, and is the money actually going out the door? Are all those funds being used up every year, to your knowledge, the loan program?
Well, the loan program has been successful, but I think there again, it's up to the high school counselors to counsel students and to get that knowledge out to that student and that parent. But I'm sure there's more money available if they would apply for it.
And it's one of the best deals in town, isn't it? I mean, interest rates are what?
Sure.
Well, the interest rates are almost nothing, aren't they?
1%.
1%.
Yeah.
Is there any one theme in higher education now, as you are looking ahead to the legislative session? And would that word, and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but would it be efficiency? Is that what we're looking at? We're hearing about consolidations, both in the colleges. We'll talk about that in a moment. Even consolidating degree programs. The Regents terminated 253 associate degree programs because of duplication with technical schools. Do you see more of the same on that, Representative?
Well, I think in our area, I can't speak for South Georgia, but I know in our area, the technical college have been working with Gainesville State College, and you're going to see more of that. And there again, it's a money issue. Senator Carter knows that. I know that. And that's the reason for the streamlining, and we've got to be more efficient.
By money issue, what kind of money do you save by consolidating?
Well, we don't have that number yet, but we're going to work on that number. And I think with Senator Carter, and we both agree on that, and also the governor's office and Office of Planning and Budget, we've got to address that need. We've been addressing it for the last 4 years.
Is one of the main benefits of consolidating, Senator, doing away with duplicate positions, for instance, not paying 2 presidents, not paying 2 controllers, that kind of thing?
Well, obviously it is. The economies of scale will certainly come into play, and certainly we expect and hope that that we will see financial gains from it. But even more so, if you look at these consolidations, I think what you see is that we will increase the quality of higher education in the state of Georgia. Take, for instance, Waycross College, which was a 2-year school, only offered associate degrees. Now that they consolidate with South Georgia College in Douglas, now they're able to offer baccalaureate degrees. And that makes available to those students down there even higher degrees. So that's an improvement in higher education. So I applaud the efforts of the Regents in doing this, and I think it's a good thing. Change is hard, and seldom is it fun, but sometimes it's necessary.
Now, obviously, there's a lot of school pride as well. I mean, we all want to have an alma mater of some sort. And Representative Rogers, you have an interesting thing in your district between Gainesville State and the long-standing North Georgia State University with its huge military tradition. Have you heard a lot of complaints about that, or are they going to take it in stride?
I have heard a few complaints, like Senator Carter said, change is hard. I know some of the faculty members down there are concerned. And some of the folks in the Gainesville-Hall County area that worked for Gainesville State College for the last 50 years, 40 years, I guess, are concerned about it. But I think with time, time will heal the wound. And North Georgia College and State University is a great university and will continue to be that.
Are you hearing concerns from your fellow lawmakers? Are any of them particularly vocal about saying this is not such a hot idea?
Well, we have one, and that's Representative Mark Hatfield, who serves on the committee as well. And Mark has a right. He's down in Waycross, and there's a need down there. And his issue was he was not notified of the situation in time. I had gotten information on it about 4 months ago.
And what about it, Senator? You?
Well, I think that Chairman Rogers would agree that for the most part, and the vast majority of the legislature views this as positive. And I think it sends a signal from the regents, from the higher education community to the legislature that we get it. We understand that we're going to have to improve efficiencies. We understand that we're going to have to do our part. And that's an important message for the legislature, and I think it'll be well received.
What about a timetable to make all this happen?
I think in our area we're looking at 18 months, North Georgia College and State University and Gainesville State College. I think the other colleges in Macon State and also Middle Georgia, and I think Waycross and South Georgia is in the same timetable. So it will take time, and it should come together. It should be a good pilot for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Are there any more schools on the block? I mean, is there a list that slowly but surely they're going to integrate more schools? Have you heard a number at all about how many universities or colleges we might have? We're down to 31 now with this consolidation.
I haven't heard a number. I don't know whether Chairman Rogers has, but I think, a message that hopefully is received by all of the colleges and universities is that make sure you're not duplicating services. Make sure you're not duplicating programs, because if you are, then you're going to be a candidate for this. Not that it's so bad that you're a candidate for it, but we are looking for efficiencies, and the regents are looking for efficiencies.
Yesterday, we talked with Alan Essig of the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute about the Board of Regents funding Governor Deal's budget proposal. He's an expert in the budget. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
We've also haven't fully funded the Board of Regents funding formula. I mean, the governor put in $76 million to fund the growth, but then 3 lines later, he took out $35 million in a cut in personal services and general operations. Now, that's better than last year. Last year, the Board of Regents didn't get any money for growth, but it's still not, it's still not fully funded.
Alan Essig with the Georgia Budget and Policy Institute. Do you buy that assessment? I mean, do you buy what he had to say? Sir?
Well, obviously, I believe that he believes what he's talking about, but at the same time, I think the governor has done the best that he can thus far. Now, keep in mind that that's the governor's proposal. It still has to go through the legislature, and we still have to have our say in it as well. But I think that overall, the end product will be something that the colleges and universities will be satisfied with.
When it gets right down to it, talk a little bit about what the legislature actually has to do with policing the college. Because after all, the Board of Regents is the authority. What's the oversight that the legislature, Representative Rogers, provides for the Board of Regents?
Well, I think it's like any state agency. Of course, the Board of Regents, they have their own autonomy. And of course, the appointments that are made by the governor and previous governors are very important. And the chancellor, I might add, Hank Huckabee, I've known for 18 years. And
another budget expert.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt Hank is. Yeah. And we'll do an excellent job. And I know many of the regents like Senator Carter. So they listen to us. They have to listen to us. And it doesn't mean they're going to take all of our suggestions, but we hope they will. The governor obviously is the mainstay there, and also the speaker and the lieutenant governor and the president of the Senate.
But in the end, when you get right down to it, the Board of Regents can write their own checks. Yeah, I just made that motion right there. They can just raise fees, right, or raise tuition to do what they want to do or do what they think they need to do, right?
If we appropriate the money, that's correct.
Oh, okay. So they just can't put it on Georgia families.
Well, you know, and that's something I know the senators probably heard. All the additional fees are being charged back to the families are a concern for me, and I'm sure for the senator as well, and all the House members and the Senate members.
Talk a little bit about how the university system spends its money. College administrators are some of the most highly paid state employees, especially college presidents. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think a lot of them probably make more money than the governor does.
Lots more money.
Lots more money. Do you see a time where we might have salary caps in some of the higher paid administrators?
It's very possible that that could happen. Again, you know, that's something, as Chairman Rogers said, you know, the regents have their own autonomy and certainly something that they may have more control of it, but it's certainly something that the legislature can have an effect on. We can, you know, when you control the purse strings, you carry a pretty big stick. So whether it gets to that point or not, I'm not certain that we'll get that. Hopefully, things are going to pick up, the economy's going to turn around, and there'll be better days ahead.
But you'd also argue, Representative Rogers, that these presidents earn their money.
Well, yeah, they've got a huge agenda, and they're doing what they're supposed to do. They were hired to do, and they certainly have many more degrees than I have, and I would say all of them do an excellent job.
Sir?
And I'd just like to comment that, you know, I'm not opposed to somebody making a lot of money, and it's the results that count. And that's what we want to see, is the results.
Oh, and they get measured.
And
Boy, there's some metrics on college presidents that you and I can only imagine. If they're not measuring up, they're just like a college coach. They're out of town on the next train.
That's right.
It happens. One of the things the governor brought up, and he was almost adamant about making our kids, Georgia graduates, either from high school or college, more skilled, more jobs ready. Some thoughts on that, you know, how we might move to that, to filling these unfilled high-tech jobs in Georgia. Senator?
Well, certainly the technical schools can help us a lot, and they're doing that. We have one of the finest technical school systems in the nation, and we're very proud of the work that they've done and very proud of the progress that they've made. And certainly they can help us as, you know, again, as we look at consolidation of universities and consolidation of colleges, that'll give us an opportunity, for instance, in Augusta, what we're doing there. You know, you're going to have an opportunity at more advanced degrees there. So that's the kind of thing that I think the regents understand that they're moving forward on, and I applaud their efforts there.
Final word from you, Representative Rogers.
Well, you know, the workforce development that we have in place and the quick start we have in the technical schools now, or have been in place for some time, and the governor's right, we've got to have the workforce ready to go when we have an industry come in. And we have to motivate people to do that, and I think he's on the right course to do it.
Thank you for your service, your oversight, and your time this evening. We'll be checking back with you. This is a big issue. Coming up tomorrow on Primetime Lawmakers, it's the end of the legislative week, and I'll be joined on set by legislative experts Buddy Darden and Bill Crane for in-depth conversation on all the issues under the Gold Dome affecting you. That discussion and much more tomorrow on Primetime Lawmakers. If you missed any part of this broadcast, you can catch Primetime Lawmakers, and it repeats at 5:30 tomorrow morning. And just in case you missed it last night, coming up next to GPB Georgia Outdoors, join host Sharon Collins for Loggerheads, The Epic Journey. That and much more is on Georgia Outdoors next. That's our broadcast for this, the fourth legislative day of the 2012 session. I'm Scott Slade. Join us for Primetime Lawmakers right here tomorrow night at 7. Have a good night.
This is a GPB original production.